If you worry about leaking every time you cough, sneeze, jump, or laugh, we want to help you out. My name is Dr. Jared. This is my beautiful wife, Camille. We are the co-creators of the Mommy Tummy Fix app, and this video is all about the pelvic floor. We're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, and specifically, we want to give you some ideas of some exercises that you can do to connect to your pelvic floor to strengthen this area and ultimately live a more functional lifestyle. And so that being said, let's jump in. What exactly is the pelvic floor? You've probably heard about it before, especially if you do have issues with incontinence, especially even if you've had a child in the past. It's a super common issue after pregnancy. And this is the reason why. And so here I have my spine, my skeleton. Down here at the bottom is the pelvis. Right down here is a hollow opening in the pelvis. Now, in real anatomy, that is not a hollow opening. That is where your pelvic floor sits. So literally, it is the floor of your pelvis. It's actually made up of 14 different muscles down there. They all perform very similar functions, and we're going to teach you about those and how to contract those a little bit later in the video. Now, why do you get pelvic floor dysfunction? The most common reason is because of pregnancy. Imagine, for example, that I put a little grape on that spot and it sat there and then it grew into a baseball and a softball and ultimately a bowling ball. Or what? We're having flashbacks here. And so as that grows and as weight increases, it obviously increases pressure on the pelvic floor. Think of your pelvic floor as a hammock under your pelvis. Obviously, the larger the object and the heavier the object, the more that hammock is going to sag and over time get stretched out. Same thing happens with your pelvic floor muscles. Let alone if you then have to push that bowling ball through the hammock, there's obviously some trauma that occurs in there. There's some injury, there's some tearing that can occur. Those muscles need rehab, just like if you were to injure your knee or your back. There are actually some exercises that you can do to improve the function of those muscles and help you to become a little more functional overall. So again, with these exercises, the pelvic floor and this connection with the pelvic floor is something that we feel like every woman should have. If you've had kids, if you have fear or struggle with this incontinence issue, these are the things that are going to help you out. Okay, so I'm gonna be done talking. And again, I've got Camille here. We're gonna help you with 3 different things that, again, every mom should be aware of. We're gonna talk about connection, we're gonna talk about contraction, and then we're going to talk about function. And so what does that mean? So first, let's talk about connection. And again, Camille's gonna help me out. This is something that a lot of women, it's just not very intuitive. So if I tell Camille, contract your biceps, she would know very intuitively, okay, I know how to do that. And if I'm like, okay, now Camille, contract your pelvic floor, a lot of women kind of look at me like, wait, I don't really know exactly what that means. It's not as intuitive as some of the other contractions in our body. Camille might be the exception. She lives with a physical therapist.
Dinner time conversation.
And so that being said, let's teach you to connect to your pelvic floor. How I like to do this is basically in 3 phases. Camille's going to sit cross-legged. I would invite you to sit cross-legged as well. She's up here on a treatment table. This tends to work a little bit better if you can sit on the floor or on a hard surface. What this does is opens your hips and allows more contact with that pelvic floor on the ground. And that creates a little bit better connection. You can then kind of contract those muscles and connect to those muscles a little simpler. The other thing that I like to do is I've got a small rolled up towel here. And what Camille can do is put that underneath her pelvic floor from front to back. And so that it's contacting that area. That improves proprioception. That just means that your mind can better connect to it because it can feel something in that area. Now, the 3 different contractions that I'm after, we're going to take you through a connection to each one of those. The first thing that I want you to do is imagine that you're sitting on the toilet and you want to cut off the flow of urine. And so you should be able to contract the muscles in that area A lot of people will say it's a squeeze to that area, which is partially true. The way that I like to describe it is it's actually a squeeze and lift. And so the analogy that I like to draw is like the claw machine in the arcade that like goes around and it drops and grabs a toy. It squeezes the toy, but then it also lifts the toy up towards the ceiling. And so throughout the video, if you see me doing this, that's your signal, that's your key to perform that contraction. Sometimes in the pelvic floor physical therapy world, they'll use different things to describe it. They'll say, imagine you're picking up a bean or picking up a blueberry or picking up a tissue or using your pelvic floor muscles to pick up a tissue. If those types of visuals help you, please by all means do those. That's what we're after. It's a squeeze and a lift in this area. And so the first thing that we're going to do is, again, cut off that flow of urine. Use those pelvic floor muscles to not only squeeze, but to lift as well. And so go ahead and let's try it out. So I want you to take a nice deep breath in, and then as your air goes out, I now want you to squeeze and lift and hold 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax. We're going to fully relax between each of these contractions. Deep breath in, and then as the breath goes out, we're going to squeeze and lift. Again, focusing on the muscles more towards the front of the pelvic floor, 5 seconds, and then relax. The next connection that we want to do are the muscles towards the rear of the pelvic floor. These are the muscles that control your anal sphincter. These are the muscles that if you wanted to prevent passing gas, these are the muscles that you would use. So again, it's a little bit different contraction. And so now let's try to connect to that spot. It should still be the same squeeze and lift contraction, but you're gonna feel it in a different spot as if you're trying to not pass gas. Okay, so let's try that out. Deep breath in, and then as you exhale, I want you to now squeeze and lift in the back. Feel it a little more towards the back. 3, 4, 5, and then relax. And then we'll do that one more time. Deep breath in, and then as the breath goes out, we're going to squeeze and lift and connect with those muscles in the back. 4, 5, and then relax. Okay, now finally, the last contraction that we're after is a combination of both of those. And so we're going to use the muscles in the front as well as the muscles in the back, try to connect to and contract both of those areas. And so let's do it. So deep breath in, and then as the breath goes out, we're going to cut off the flow of urine. We're going to prevent the pass of gas. We're gonna hold that for 5, and then we're going to relax. And that's something, so that's, again, just the connection. That's one that I typically recommend, ladies, we can do this 10 to 20 reps of this, and then a couple of times, 2, 3 times throughout your day is a great number to shoot for. So again, hopefully that helps to create this connection between your brain and that area of your body. The next thing we're gonna work on is contraction of this area. We're gonna add a little more function to it. And so Camille's gonna go ahead and lay down on her back with her knees bent. And what we're going to add now is a pelvic brace or abdominal hollowing to that pelvic floor contraction. And so Camille's on her back. I'm gonna get her feet to be about hip width apart. Sometimes issues with the pelvic floor can arise from an inability to fully relax. And so oftentimes what I'll tell ladies is go ahead and relax that pelvic floor. Sometimes if you kind of rock your knees side to side, separate, pull in, pull out, that can be a cue to just kind of relax everything down in that pelvic floor. And so now we're nice and relaxed. Let's work on that contraction with an abdominal brace. The abdominal brace is activating your deep core layer. Your deep core and your pelvic floor love to work together in synergy, in harmony to promote more function. So let's try to combine those. So she's gonna start with a pelvic floor contraction. So again, we're gonna work on the front muscles and the back muscles at the same time. Deep breath in, and then as we breathe out, we're going to squeeze and lift in the pelvic floor. Now what I want Camille to do is draw her belly button in towards her spine. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax everything. And so once again, we're gonna start with the pelvic floor contraction. Feel the squeezing and lifting. Again, a blueberry or a bean or whatever you need to visualize. Squeeze and then pull that belly button in towards your spine. And hold 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. One of my favorite cues for this deep core contraction is you've got your bones, your hip bones right here in the front. Try to pull them together. Try to squeeze them together. You're trying to use your ab muscles to draw your hips closer together during this contraction. And honestly, this is one of my favorite exercises. This is so helpful if you have any type of abdominal issue, if you have diastasis recti, abdominal separation. This move right here, you mamas, you ladies, this is one you must master. This is actually foundation for everything that we do in deep core rehab. And so one more time, let's try it out. Deep breath in, and then as you breathe out, we're going to squeeze and lift in the pelvic floor. We're gonna draw the abs in, hold 5 seconds, and then relax. And again, this is one that you can do about 10 to 20 reps a couple of times throughout your day is a great starting place. Okay, now let's take it to function. So this is part 3 of this. This is the last thing that I'll teach you. We're going to add one more contraction to this to start to make that pelvic floor a little more functional during activity. So for this one, grab a small ball or grab a pillow. This pillow is kind of flat, so I'm gonna double it up. And I'm gonna put that between Camille's legs right here. Or you can put it wherever is comfortable, wherever it needs to be. Now, we're going to do those same 2 contractions. We're gonna do the pelvic floor, we're gonna do the abdominal brace, but now I'm also going to have Camille just do a slight squeeze at her knees as well. And what you'll feel here, you can even just try this right now. Put the pillow between your knees and squeeze your adductors. So squeeze the pillow, but then be mindful of those pelvic floor muscles. What happens at those pelvic floor muscles as you squeeze that pillow together? You might feel some activation in those areas because again, the synergy between these pieces to make the whole more functional. That's something that absolutely exists. And so to take you into this, let's go ahead and we'll combine it. We're gonna do the pelvic floor, the abdominal contraction, and the squeeze at the pillow. And honestly, recent studies have shown that this is one of the most effective ways that you can activate those pelvic floor muscles and strengthen those pelvic floor muscles. So always start with the breath. So deep breath comes in, and then as the breath goes out, we're going to squeeze and lift at the pelvic floor. Abs come in, and then we're gonna add the contraction, the squeeze of the pillow or ball, 5, and then relax. And then let's do that one more time. Deep breath comes in, and then as the breath goes out, we're going to squeeze and lift at the pelvic floor. We're gonna draw the abs in, and then we're gonna squeeze the pillow, hold 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax. If you can't hold the full 5 seconds because it gets fatigued, maybe just start with 3. If you can't do all 20 repetitions, perhaps just start with 10. Try to do what you can with what you have, and then try to progress and build on this as you get stronger. Same recommendations on this, about 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 20 reps would be a great number to shoot for. What do you think? How do you feel?
Good.
Healed, everything's amazing. Ladies, we hope this helps you out. As I mentioned before, if you're interested, we have an entire mobile application dedicated to deep core and pelvic floor rehab to help you mamas out. You can learn more about it at mommytummyfix.com. Leave us your comments, leave us your questions, and we'll see you again soon.